Everyone. Victoria, we're not able to hear you. We're not able to hear you somehow. No, I'm sorry, we cannot hear you. Perhaps if you leave and come back.
David?
Yes.
Are we on for the 30th? Am I correct?
That's right, for negotiations.
No, I'm talking about the 30th with the Vermont School Boards Association, you and I.
Oh, I thought that was the 31st, Monday.
Is it the 31st?
Yes.
Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. I feel like the Godfather. Okay.
Yes, we are.
Okay. And what time is that? I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, I'll have to look it up as well.
That's all right. Never mind.
Something like 4:30 or 5:30, something like that.
Okay. And why I got you, will we have at least one representative per school at Thursday night's board meeting?
I have not invited them. I certainly can if you would like.
I think that's appropriate.
Certainly.
Because I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who have questions on the opening, and what better place to have it than have the principals and directors kind of deal with that. I don't think everybody has to show up, but at least from one from each building.
Okay, Jennifer and Brenda, did you hear that? Okay,
Thank you.
Good.
That just leaves Penny and Chris, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Hello again, Victoria. No, we still can't. Andrea, just so you know, I am recording the meeting.
I have a message from Victoria for me to take over as chair while she reboots another device.
Good.
So what we will do is call this meeting to order. Let's see. I'm just looking to see if there's any chance that Victoria has come in. All right, we won't. All right. Well, what we'll do is we'll carry on here. And Paul, you're going to have to help me out because I left my agenda in the other room of all days.
Would you like me to act as an interim chair just till Victoria gets on board?
Yeah, because if you've got an agenda in front of you, I left mine in the other room and I don't want to go get it.
Not a problem. Okay, second item on the agenda is, are there any additions or changes to the agenda? Hearing none, then we will move on to public commentary. Is there any public commentary here tonight?
Perhaps folks already covered this, but there's someone on the telephone ending in 74. Andrea, do you know who they are?
Hi, it's Mike and Jennifer Padilla.
Thank you, Mike and Jennifer.
Thank you.
Do you have any public commentary?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Then we have the review and approval of the minutes of the meeting on June 23rd. Is there a motion to approve?
Yeah, I'll move that.
Is there a second?
Who else is there?
Since Tim's not here, I will assume that there's a second. Is there any changes to those minutes, additions or deletions or corrections?
Not from me.
Then by consensus, we will move on the minutes. All those in favor, just put your thumbs up. Those opposed, so carried. And we're into the new business section. We have the hybrid learning, the VTVLC discussion. David, you want to lead us in this since you're filling in?
Absolutely. I have some presentations, a few minutes of presentations that might help the group. So let me go ahead and do that. The first thing that I'd like to share, and this is not meant to embarrass Jen, who's sitting here tonight. I want to share one of the back to school videos that were created. Both the principals at Berrytown Middle and Elementary School and Berry City Middle and Elementary School made introduction videos. This is in addition to the content that's on the school web pages to help students and families understand what the beginning of school will look like. But they did such a good job at this. I'd like to show this one. So let me make it full screen and present it.
Hi everyone, it's Miss Pearson, co-principal at the middle school at Berrytown. We just wanted to say welcome back. We're so excited to see you. We know that there are a lot of questions about what school is going to look like this year, but please know that we are so excited to see all of your faces coming through our doors. We can't wait.
Welcome back, Berrytown Bobcats. It's Mrs. Nye, one of the co-principals at Berrytown Middle and Elementary School. As Miss Pearson shared, we are so excited to have you back in our building. It's going to look a little bit differently this year, so we have created a video to help show you what it's going to look like at parent drop-off, on the bus, in the building, how to walk in the hallways, and what does it mean for outside time and your food. Enjoy the video.
You might be wondering what's going to happen when your parents drop you off. Your parents are going to come through our parents drop-off loop right by our wood chip plant. Everybody in your car should be masked up when you get to your stop. We're going to ask you 3 questions. If everyone's feeling well today, if you've traveled outside the state of Vermont, and if anyone has any symptoms of COVID, such as a fever or a runny nose.
How are you feeling today, Tina?
Good.
Have you traveled outside of Vermont?
No.
No. Do you have any symptoms of COVID? No. I'm going to take your temperature now. You are good to go. Welcome to school. Say goodbye to Mom. Have a great day. Thank you. Have a great day, Tina.
Hello, I'm Mrs. Murray, Transportation Coordinator. We'd like to tell you what will happen when the bus arrives at your bus stop. First, you will be greeted by the bus rider. The bus rider will come off the bus, ask you certain questions like, how are you feeling? Have you had any symptoms of COVID? And they will take your temperature. How are you feeling?
Great.
Have you been outside the state of Vermont?
Nope.
Okay, can I take your temperature?
Yes.
Perfect. You may get on the bus, use the hand sanitizer right there, and you'll be told where to sit.
Hi again. Unfortunately, we are unable to have recess time this year. However, we are going to be able to get outside. When we are outside, as long as we are 6 feet away from our classmates, we can take off our masks. We are going to call that a mask break.
There'll be lots of times for mask break, outside walks, and other brain breaks during the day. Unfortunately, due to the situation, we're unable to use our equipment outside.
Hi, Hi, you're probably wondering, how am I going to get my breakfast and lunch when I'm at school? If you get off the bus, you will enter through door 28. When you arrive into door 28, there will be a table here, and Lexington Independence, our food service company, will have a bag breakfast. You will then pick up the bag breakfast and walk straight to your classroom, wherever that may be. If you plan on getting school lunch here at school, the lunches will be delivered outside of your classroom. If you want to bring lunch from home, you are more than able to do so. Please keep in mind that we cannot use microwaves, so make sure you put your food in a thermos. And also keep in mind that your teacher might tell you any food allergies or food sensitivities that there might be in your classroom. Otherwise, you are able to bring any kind of snack and lunch from home.
Hi everyone, it's Miss Pearson again. You might wonder, how am I supposed to walk in the hallway? As you can see, we still need to be 6 feet apart to be socially distanced. If you meet people, make sure that you come all the way to the side of the hallway when you're going by. Remember, unfortunately, no high fives and no hugs today. Be kind and wave.
So earlier we talked about how school's going to look a little bit different. This is an example of what one of our elementary classrooms looks like. You will notice that each of the desks is spaced 6 feet apart from one another. Students may be able to use their coat hooks, or we might have to not use a coat hook, so that way students can put their backpacks on the back of their chairs. At the end of their pod session, all of the desks and chairs will be cleaned and sanitized in preparation for the next pod that will be coming into the classroom.
Hi everyone, it's Miss Pearson again. We wanted you to be able to see what one of our middle school classrooms will look like. Again, our desks are 6 feet apart. Students will come in, be able to hang up their items, and then will be seated at their desk. Lunch will happen in your classroom, as will all of your specials. That is for middle and elementary school. Your special teacher will be visiting your classrooms and delivering your content area there. We know that school is going to be a little bit different this year, but one of the most important things is that everyone's going to have a facial covering or a mask on at all times during the building, unless we're eating. It's really important that we wear a mask to keep each other safe. You can't wear your mask when it is not properly over your nose and under your chin. You also can't wear a bandana at school. You can wear a mask like this that has loops around the ear. You can wear a mask that ties around your head, or you can wear something called a neck gaiter, which you can pull up over your nose and your chin. I know that it might be a little bit difficult and it might not be comfortable all the time, but we have to do it to keep each other safe. So we look forward to working through it with you, and you'll see all of your teachers wearing a mask every day as well.
We hope you enjoyed this video, and we hope that this video helped answer some of the questions that you and your family might have about what school will look like this coming up school year.
We know that this year is going to be different, but we're all in it together and everything's going to be okay.
We look forward to seeing you soon.
We miss you. Welcome back to school.
Who gets the Oscar?
I think, are they able to share the Oscar? Because I think Jen and Erica both, you know, I don't know who is a supporting actor and who's a lead actor.
I think it should go to Josh Allen. Huge kudos to him for making the video. It was great.
Victoria, are you able to take over?
I think so. Can everyone hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect, because this is device number 3 now.
Oh my goodness.
We're still dealing with the hybrid 5.1.
Okay, so that was we just hit the Berrytown introduction video?
Yes.
That's right. That's right.
Did you also show the Berry City one or no?
No, I think it's similar, and I'll just show one this evening. But the purpose in doing that is just to give one of the highlights of how through the principals and the school staff and Josh Allen with communications, the plethora of information that's being put out on our web pages to help families see and visualize what things will look like and have as many questions answered as about the physical details of what coming to middle and elementary school will look like. Because I'm sure, you know, that people have concerns about that. So that's I don't think is, you know, the main focus for our curriculum group today, but I just wanted you to have that context of what we're looking at for the hybrid instruction in our schools. The other information that I'd like to share is, and I'll present this as well, it's a document that is our general expectations. And this document, let me share it. came out of work from the Reopening School group that has been working throughout the summer, looking at, excuse me, the first thing that they looked at were the physical aspects, the safety aspects of returning to school. And then the second part that they looked at were expectations for what teaching and learning will look like. Because I know there are questions from the committee and others about what hybrid instruction will look like and what we've done to prepare. So I will summarize this. You know, of course, in the K-8s, children will be there in person 2 days a week and be working virtually 3 days per week. And the time when faculty is not teaching, they'll be preparing lessons. They'll be in meetings with other staff, school-based meetings, and they'll be touching base with their students. So this is just to show you that our faculty meetings and our regular school development work will continue. On Wednesdays, we're asking teachers to have 1/3 of their time for preparation, 1/3 for meetings. We'd like to use this to have, for example, IEP meetings or other meetings on that one day when students aren't there, so that teachers can capitalize on other times to meet with students. And 1/3 remote student support. It can include office hours, intervention with special ed services, and other ways to provide feedback. Number 3 on this talks about a memo that I had given to the teachers, and I might have to bring it to the board meeting. I'm not sure that I shared it with the board. There's been so many memos, it's hard to remember all of them. But it was giving teachers clarity on the school day of their in-person time and their remote time and their expectations of working their full contract. And it also talks about what we should expect of paraprofessionals. The group also talked about grading, assessment, and feedback and reporting. So again, we're working on new learning in this time of hybrid education. And so there will be performance indicators, proficiencies rather, for teachers to teach toward. And these will be the same proficiencies that they would teach in a regular year. So whatever were the proficiencies in 5th grade, for example, will still be the proficiencies, the expectations in a hybrid model. And whatever the proficiencies were for an English class or a math class at the high school would still be the expectations. So there'll still be grading. Students will receive grades and we'll be using our Infinite Campus platform. There is the expectation that students, or rather teachers, reach out to counselors and support teams when they're seeing a drop-off in student performance. It could either be a lack of attendance or students having difficulty with the material. I'm going to jump down to number 6, platforms and trainings. We want to have common platforms and online trainings and things that match our delivery models that we're currently using. We are using Google Classroom primarily up through grade 12, and the younger grades pre-K through 2 are using a platform called Seesaw, which is a student engagement platform. And we want to stick to those 2 so that we're not bombarding students, support staff, or parents, families, with a whole host of different online platforms for engaging with their teachers and having communication. You'll see we made arrangements to buy some packages that connect closely with the work that we're already doing. There is a platform called Freckle that connects really closely with our ELA, and Zern that also connects with our work. Those were chosen on purpose. We didn't want teachers to use or struggle to find any old video or online resource to keep their students busy. We want things that are connected to the work that we're already doing. And some of these platforms teachers would have used, again, in a normal year.
David, could I interrupt for a second?
Sure.
This has gone out to all faculty already, so they're already in tune and meeting on this particular schedule, am I correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. And building principals have been communicating this. And in addition, you know, as we finished our reopening planning group this summer, we ended up having, oh my goodness, 25 or more teachers and administrators from across the school district. So it's well represented in discussions about these expectations. And I'll just wrap up this part in talking about what pre-service will look like. You know, I've mentioned it before that we'll have 8 days of in-service prior to the start of school, which is more than double what we normally have. And it's fortunate that the start of school was pushed back to September 8th to allow us to do this. And then the flexibility with our calendar. And I'd also compliment the association on being flexible and allowing us to put these days in the beginning. They have been great partners in this. And the pre-service time will be spent with building-based matters, and in addition, technology training in those platforms that we talked about, and then large chunks of time with our curriculum specialists. And I see that Karen is on the line and Venus in this meeting. And Karen and Venus and the other curriculum support staff will be working with the groups of teachers, again, talking about how we will present quality material, quality instruction in both our in-person and our remote learning during the hybrid phase of our reopening. So I'll pause. I've been talking a lot, so I'll pause for questions, and I'm going to stop sharing.
Just one, I was just going to have a second question. That is, this has already gone out to parents. They're aware of this kind of schedule, or is this about to go out?
No, this has gone out to teachers.
Okay. So is there something similar? The parents are aware that this is the beyond the films that was so nicely done, but also as far as what this curriculum might look like?
Right, and I wouldn't call this a curriculum. I'm going to stop sharing because it'll be easier on my end of the computer. So this isn't a curriculum, and the curriculum and the proficiencies have not changed. It's just how we're balancing the mode of instruction in a hybrid model. And part of that will be for classroom teachers who will be meeting with their students and communicating out to families the expectations. So this is an internal document to be clear about the expectations for teachers.
David, I have a question.
Oh. Go ahead, Alice.
I'll let.
Okay, this is Alice. In the proficiencies, with students who are involved in the virtual learning, if they are highly skilled and independent learners, did you discuss what could happen if a student very early on meets all the proficiencies? How is that going to be dealt with?
Right, good question. And I'd like to stick with the hybrid model, and then we could talk about the virtual model because they're a little different. But that's a good question. And it's still the expectation, as it was before, that teachers would differentiate the content. And you saw the expectation for teachers checking in with their students. So both students having difficulties, having their content adjusted and supported, but also being able to move students forward if they're mastering the content. So a big key part of this is that frequent check-in with students and monitoring their success or struggles.
My particular concern would be at the high school that, for example, if you have a student who has mastered 10th grade social studies will that student have to continue through the whole year in 10th grade social studies, or will they be able to move forward into 11th grade social studies?
You want me to jump in here, David?
You can, and then I have a thought as well.
Okay, so with all of our courses, whether they be the hybrid or the virtual remote learning style, students can do additional work to actually earn a higher level of GPA and grade achievement. So they're challenged that way rather than accelerated just into additional curriculum. So there's usually deeper, richer projects that they work on, and they delve deeper into the curriculum than just the meeting the proficiencies. And that's what we were doing before COVID as well.
Okay.
And I would just jump in. I agree with what Brenda said. And again, when you look at proficiency-based teaching and grading, so you would look at students who would meet the proficiency, let's say in 10th grade, they're studying the American Revolution. I'm not sure, but something like that. And they might be able to demonstrate an understanding of what a revolution is, but then a student who exceeds the standard, who can already do that, would go in and maybe look at the multiple facets of the American Revolution, compare it to other revolutions, and go beyond. So they wouldn't necessarily need to go on to 11th grade European history. They could take it further with what they're doing. And it would really be the same for whether it's math or English class, for example.
Then I have one quick question, and I'll go back to my corner. How will this affect students who want to do dual enrollment? So,
how does what impact?
Well, the virtual learning, and if students were planning on taking a college at the 11th or 12th grade, were planning on taking a college course, how would that affect them?
So we still have students that are doing the dual enrollment, and right now CCV is offering all of their courses virtually. They do not have face-to-face. So the students who are signing up for the dual enrollment, they're just doing that virtually, and it would be, the rest of it would be the same as it has been in the past, that they have 2 vouchers that they can sign up for. If they want to do additional, it is a small fee that the family has to pay. It's $162 that they incur for additional courses that they want to do.
Okay. Thank you.
So I had a question just to follow up on the hybrid model. How are teachers going to be teaching on the days, on Monday, Tuesday, they're having group A, and then they're also responsible for teaching group B remotely. Given kind of looking over the survey data that we just got today, there's some dissatisfaction with the Freckles, the Zerns, and so on being the driver of education on those days. So how are we going to handle this differently than we did in March?
Good question. And I'm going to present one more thing. And then I wonder if Jen wants to speak to that as well. You don't have to, I just wonder. Let me get this presentation ready.
I might be able to speak to that a little bit while David's getting that ready.
I'm ready.
I see Chris has joined us. We talked about having interventionists do some support for students who are being remote, so that could help add some structure to their day.
Hi, everybody. Yes, thanks, Karen. Sorry I'm late, everybody. Indeed, all the interventionists, Venus, Karen, and the interventionists met with me yesterday to talk about how we can add that component to the off day. Is especially important for those kids who need those interventions, so it should be helpful. We're going to be working on building a caseload for that in this next week and a half and a schedule.
Thanks, Chris. I want to share something that I just talked about with our new teachers. I was leading new teacher orientation yesterday, and I'm going to bring up this slide again at the welcome session from the superintendent for all of the staff, tomorrow being the first day of in-service. And it's about the concept of balancing your instruction, because you have proficiencies, right? You have curriculum that is guided by proficiencies linked to standards, and anything that you present to the students that you bring into your instruction should support those proficiencies. So if you're using a lesson in Freckle, it is not your entire lesson at all. It's meant to support the work toward the proficiency. And any of these platforms are meant to do that. And my message to the teachers is this: going into hybrid education and the hybrid model, we already know, we already have put a lot of thought and effort into our training for our teachers, and we've built up their expertise over the years. And folks like Karen and Venus and the other curriculum support folks and principals have been building this cadre of teachers. So they know what they're expected to teach, and they know the best methods for teaching. Teaching in a hybrid environment, though, challenges us to be really clear about how we balance our instruction. And the diagram that I'm showing you is in lighter print at the top. There's always some sort of presentation, whether you're teaching first graders or 12th graders, where the teacher is giving some information at the beginning. You might call it a lecture, or we'll call it a lesson. The best practice, pre-K through 12, and I'd say even into higher ed, is that the lecture part really needs to be the smallest part of what you're doing when you're in person with students. You're supposed to convey the idea and then move the students into appropriate practice and then give students feedback. An appropriate practice means just enough practice to show that students have mastered the work. So this is the work of individualization, Alice, that you were asking about before. And it goes into the feedback and follow-up from teachers. So the practice needs to be appropriate, not just a whole pile of video lessons to do or a gigantic packet of worksheets that we mailed to your house. That's inappropriate. It needs to be the right kind of practice based on the proficiency. And then the other part that is in bold is the feedback, because that's how everybody learns. You know, whether you're in building trades and someone is looking over your shoulder saying, nice job on this, you need to do this with the plumbing. It's that feedback. We're going to have to think more, and that's going to be our work during in-service, to think more about how do we give appropriate practice? What does that look like? How do we give frequent feedback to support students to move them along, as we've been talking about? And then what's the role of the lecture or lesson? The big difference too, and the benefit in the hybrid model, even though it's different, is that we have the students with us 2 days a week, whereas in the spring, it was entirely virtual. So it gives you that contact time with the teachers, more personalized feedback. It would be a mistake to take your 2 days and get all of your lectures in. You would want to make sure that you're checking in on that practice and giving them feedback. So it's going to be individualized by teacher, you know, what this will look like. There's not one prescription for this, not in Barry, not in Montpelier, not in any district, but the pedagogical model of balancing your instruction holds here. And that's what we're going to be digging into with substantial time with our more than doubled in-service starting tomorrow.
Okay, just as a follow-up question, as you were saying, you know, there's no, we'll say, method to it yet, but is there a plan for having, I'm just going to throw it out, let's say a 30-minute Zoom meeting for the class every morning, so that there's still some social interaction, then remember kids, this is what you're going to be doing, and then continue on? Or is it just going to be these kids come in Monday, Tuesday, they get their instruction, they leave, they go home and practice whatever's assigned to them, and then come back the following Monday and then get that feedback and follow-up? Or is there going to be actual real checking in? Thank you, Venus. I guess you'll take it.
Well, I will say, so the good news about where we are right now is that we've had a long time to prepare to know that we were going to sort of have something different. Where in March we had about 2 days where teachers were just sort of forced out of their classrooms, and we relied heavily on, in math, we relied heavily on Zern because we didn't have a choice. So this year coming in, Zern will continue to be a tool, but one that we will use much more judiciously. That when we meet, we're going to talk about teachers specializing in the younger grades, so that one teacher, one half of the team is able to focus on literacy for the remote days, and the other half is able to focus on math for remote days, so that teachers are able to make videos, post questions for kids. We want to do a lot more of platforms that allow kids to video themselves and then have other kids respond to them to show their work, so that teachers aren't just relying on the fact that, like, hopefully kids did their work, but they don't actually know, where they can actually see what they're doing and hear them talk, particularly in math, and continue to have student discourse, because we don't want the conversation or the work to end on Monday and Tuesday. And if kids are interacting, one of the conversations we've had at 6th, 7th, and 8th grade level is setting kids up with a partner. So like the way we do in class, but maybe they plan to meet via Google Meet. Or, you know, they text each other, or they phone call each other. I mean, they have ways to contact each other during the days, but so that they're still feeling connected. We haven't been able to think through the idea of a morning meeting yet. And there have been people who have talked about, like, trying to have kids Zoom in. There's some confidentiality issues there with allowing families into the classroom and allowing, you know, all of those kids into other kids. There's, you know, parents who aren't always dressed appropriate. And there's a host of reasons why that maybe isn't a great idea. So they'll see their teachers on Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday, they'll all meet together in some sort of meeting. And then Thursday and Friday, it's likely that they won't have face-to-face contact with their teacher, but that they would have some interaction with their teacher through a video, a Zern lesson, but also an exit ticket that the teachers created that the teacher could provide feedback on. So there will be a lot more of the teacher sort of directing and being really intentional about how they're going to move through the sequence of events throughout the weeks, and making sure that they have opportunities to gain real, tangible evidence of student learning.
Could I interject a question? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, thank you, Venus. That all sounds fabulous. I love it. Is there any way to get this in some type of printed format so that we can share with parents the expectations? Because I think a lot of the fear out there right now is that for those 3 remote days, it's going to be like March.
Victoria, I would just, to answer your question then, and I know Paul had a question, is that we're going to try and capture as much of that as we can in our frequently asked questions pages, but also a big important thing for all of our teachers, again, pre-K through 12, is going to be to communicate those expectations at the beginning of class. This is what it's going to look like. This is when we'll meet. You know, in a similar fashion to a regular year where, you know, your history teacher might send home a page saying, show this to your parents. Here's what sophomore history looks like, and here's what you're expected to do.
Okay, thank you. I guess, Paul, it's your turn. Oh, sorry. Actually, I'm going to let Jen trump you first. So Jen first.
Just a quick idea. I wonder if our day in the life schedule could maybe include that piece that you just reminded us of, Victoria. That might help kind of paint that picture a little clearer to our families. One piece that we're trying to be really mindful of is the daycare piece. And that's a piece that we know is just a hiccup for everyone. So by having the videos, it really provides families the opportunity to do the schoolwork when they are able to. And for many, it might be before or after work, because a daycare may not be able to do that. And we get it. So we appreciate that flexibility, but I do wonder if there's a way that we could fine tune our day in the life schedule. Thank you for that idea.
That would be great. Thank you. Okay, Paul?
My question is more generic. I'm looking at this. The program that we're putting out there for this return to school, is that geared just to the end of the year, or are we looking at this as year long? I mean, that's the big question that I've been getting a lot of.
So for the hybrid model, it's built right on the same foundation of our regular instruction. And it's a model that, you know, heaven forbid we needed to go totally virtual, then people could shift to totally virtual. I really don't expect that happening, but if it did, we'd be able to. But then if it shifts to more and more in-person instruction or fully in-person instruction, it's built on the very same foundation. You know, in high school, it'd be the same textbook that you'd be using. In third grade, it'd be the same type of math lesson that you'd be using. But the virtual, and maybe this is a good point to go and start talking about that, that is a standards-based program, but the content is different. So based on the same sort of expectations, based on the same standards that other students are doing. So the things you learn in third grade in the 100% virtual would be very similar to what you would learn in third grade in the hybrid, yet it will be different in that it is Barry teachers leading those classes, and the content is collated from the VTVLC, which is the Vermont Virtual Learning Collaborative, and they're partnering with a firm in Florida who is developing that content. And we've seen the content, it's high quality content, and the teachers have received training on the content. They've been in intensive training all of this week and next week with Jess Van Ornum and Lorraine Morris. But something that is different with the virtual, and I've had parents ask, can I switch back to hybrid if I think that's better? And I'd also add that we started on this journey of providing a 100% virtual instruction model by getting feedback in July from parents, and then knowing that people wanted this, and then having people sign up and indicate that they truly wanted to enroll in early August. And in that time period, and I checked my messages, it was August 17th when we signed the contract with VTVLC and learned that it's high quality, yet different. So going back to the how long would a student stay in virtual, it's set up to run the whole year. There is the opportunity, a natural breaking point would be at the semester in January, where the first semester finishes. And parents have asked, and they've been concerned that they thought that there would be more flexibility, and maybe, I don't know, on October 15th or 1st of November, that they feel that they'd like to do hybrid, could they switch? And what I've told folks is this. It's also based on the premise is that the parent is the best and strongest advocate for their child, and they're the strongest and most important voice. So we would really not stand in the way of a parent who felt that they needed a different placement for their child. Just in a normal year, we wouldn't carte blanche stand in the way and tell a parent, you know, to forget it. We would listen and we would work with them. So going back to my discussion about virtual, in a normal school year, where it wasn't COVID-19, we would want to have a conversation. You know, if a parent went to Jen and said, I'd like to, you know, move my kid from Mr. Smith's class to Mrs. Jones's class, I think that would be better for my child. It would be a meeting. The team would discuss it. They would think about the pros and cons and what it meant for the continuity of instruction, and the team would make that decision, with the parent, again, being a strong voice, knowing their child. What I've told folks is, it's even trickier switching from virtual to hybrid. It can be done, but it's a change in the continuity for the child. So we would do everything we could to support a child and hope that it works for the whole year if possible, or at least to the mid-year point. And that's why we have Jess Van Ornum and Lorraine Morris as our coordinators to work with the teachers in the program and the professionals at VTLC and the families, so that if there are any bumps in the road, that they get smoothed out and taken care of. But we would be prepared if it's a disaster for a child and really harmful, that we would make the placement decision as a team.
Brenda?
I did want to point out that it is different at the high school.
Mm-hmm.
So, David, do you want to speak to the high school, or would you rather I do?
I would like you to.
So the hybrid and the virtual are a little more blended at the high school level. We don't have them completely separate. It is the exact same curriculum, and our students that are doing remote 100% of the time will be in the same classes and courses as their peers and working at the same pace as their peer group that come in, however much FaceTime we have with them. So there was a couple of reasons why we did it that way rather than how the elementary and middle schools are doing it. And one of the biggest reasons is because of the licensure of our teachers and the limiting factors that it may have had of pulling certain teachers out to do the virtual learning, or having them only dedicated to the in-person instruction. And so because of that licensure, it's much different at the high school level. It might have precluded some students from accessing AP courses, for example, or certain other courses that we only have one of, like physics and so forth. So to not limit our access to our courses, we decided to have our students just stay. That does allow our students more flexibility in kind of toggling between being virtual / remote or being in person and remote. So we have had a lot of families. We're averaging about 3 to 5 every day that keep, wait, I want this. I've changed my mind thinking of this. And there's a lot of fear right now. So I think that once we start in the school year and people see that school's going okay, that things will kind of sugar out a little bit. But it is a lot of juggling right now because we are trying to be as responsive as you said virtual today, but tomorrow you say in person. We're going to roll with that.
So David, can you give us an idea kind of, so I had said like, maybe, I don't know if you have a presentation for the virtual learning, or is it just discussion based?
No, it's just discussion based.
Okay, then I guess I'll start with questions. So I did have a question of the number of students that we have enrolled, the number of students who applied, and the number of students who want to back out based upon the fact that it's a full year and not a half year now. Do you have any of those numbers?
I do.
Okay.
So let me do some quick math. 1, 2.
Victoria, is your question also to say to parents that they have the possibility of opting out? Because that's what I thought we just heard.
Well, I know there is so the plan went, I believe at the survey dates, it was said that there was the possibility to move. at mid-year. Then an email went out saying that essentially you're committing for the full year unless there's a problem. So I guess my thing is, how many parents, once they saw it was committing for the full year unless there's a problem, said that they then wanted hybrid instead?
So I can talk in rough numbers. So we have approximately 250, I would say, students. I don't want to take the time to take out my calculator here, but doing some quick math, about 250 students who are enrolled K through 8 in the virtual learning platform. And then right now we have about 30 student or families who have asked for their students to begin virtual. So we have 30 more requests. We have approximately about 15 available slots, which we will fill via lottery. And we have had one family with 3 students in one of our schools asked to leave the virtual academy. And they did not indicate it was because of the full year commitment.
Okay. Do we have any information as of now as to what the virtual academy will actually look like? I mean, is it videotape lessons? Is it more like the Zern, Freckle, and so on? How is instruction going to actually be delivered to our students?
So students are grouped in classes with Barry teachers in grades K through 5. And so much like a self-contained classroom where the 5th grade teachers are responsible for everything that 5th grade entails, they will have, I believe, it's daily morning meetings. And then they will have practice and lessons that are both video and pencil and paper. And then the other aspect of this is that there's the expectation that the teacher will be touching base with their students. So in addition to delivering those lessons, going over all of the work to see their progress, and having daily meetings with the students as a group, as a classroom group, the expectation is that teachers will be checking in with each and every student at least a minimum of twice per week, personal check-ins on their progress. And again, they'll be supported by the training from VTVLC and Jess Van Ornum and Lorraine Morris as our coordinators for the virtual program. Middle school is a little bit different. My understanding is that there'll still be homeroom groups. So we have some Barry teachers who are in that group. I don't have my list of teachers in front of me. I think it's 3 of them who are, content specialists, because in middle school you need to be endorsed in your content area. So there'll be homeroom groups. However, when students take their classes, they'll be shared across the state. And here's the reason why. We might have a social studies, a English, a math teacher, for example, that we can spare. And I've got to tell you, with the K-8 principals here, it's been nip and tuck to have enough to do hybrid and virtual with the staffing. So those 3 teachers do not cover all of the content areas for middle school. Barry can't do that. Jericho can't do that. That's another school using this. So that's why the students will be matched up with the content specialists. So if they need a science class, they'll be matched up with a 7th or 8th grade science teacher who's teaching the curriculum that VTVLC has prepared, with the same expectations for checking in on their progress.
Okay, so just circling back just for a minute because I was doing the math. So since we're a virtual academy, why do we only have, let's see, 265 available slots for students? I mean, I can understand 6 feet distance in the schools, but to be virtual, why do we have a limit?
Right. So for a couple of reasons. One, you know, and I've taught online at the graduate level, but VTVLC, they are experts in teaching online in the K-12 realm. And for teachers to do a good job with this, to have, and the key of distance learning is to be connected to your instructor and to have that feedback from your instructor. And that's why they put the limit of 25 as a max for any one teacher to do the program well and to have that frequent contact with the students. In addition, even if we weren't looking at virtual and hybrid and all of this stuff, if you took a look at Vermont School Quality Standards, they also would say that 25 would be a max for a classroom teacher to meet Vermont School Quality Standards. Another limiting factor for us is that we were trying our best to match up the initial number of students who we expected to be in the program, so about 250 or so, and then the number of teachers who either needed to teach virtually because they, through human resources, had some reason where they needed that, or a leave of absence because of some conditions in COVID-19, or they volunteered to do it. And that's how we came up with our number of teachers and also 2 special educators to support students. So that's another aspect of it, is that there are special educators who will also provide support in addition to this support from the teacher. So those are some of the things that bring up our limiting factors. I hear that schools around us, Montpelier, for example, again, are having more requests for virtual than they're able to accommodate. But it's about having the right number of students to do a high quality job with the number of teachers that we have. Talking about number of teachers, and Jen can see, would probably, let's see if she nods her head, it's been extremely difficult to fill our teaching positions. And schools have had to search for new teachers to fill some vacancies. And there has been a dramatic lack of candidates. It's been extremely difficult to fill the few vacancies that we've had.
Okay, now for virtual students, I guess this is more of a Venus Karen question, but how are we going to be testing where these kids are coming in at when we're still in a virtual environment for them? So for math leveling, for reading levels and so on, for the little ones, how is that going to be assessed, or will it be?
Are you talking about the hybrid kids, or are you talking about the VTVLC?
No, the virtual students, correct.
My understanding is that we don't have anything to do with the students who were going to the virtual academy, that they're completely under the guise of the virtual academy, and that we're not doing anything with them.
That's right. It's a standalone program.
We do have licenses for the virtual academy to use Star 360 for literacy, which is a K-8 assessment that Lorraine and I are working on to make sure teachers can access that too.
Okay.
Might just be for the elementary level kids.
Okay, and so is there any plan through VTVLC for math testing, David?
So they'll be grading and assessment through the VTVLC platform and through the VTVLC content. Karen was talking about Star 360, and that is something that the district had already purchased for ELA, and it's a computer-based assessment, so that works really well for virtual. But but we do not have the math component of that right now. And this could be a whole evening's conversation in itself about, you know, what type of math assessment, common assessments are the most effective for our students.
Okay, because just for, I'll say, the continuance of data, I know that the STAR 360 program, we had a curriculum meeting discussing that however long ago it is now. Time has no meaning anymore.
Right.
But the idea of making sure that we're still getting the math assessments for the kids who are ours, but are technically virtual, I think it's important to still be following them on some type of platform.
Venus, that might be something that you might check in with Jess and Lorraine, just to see, you know, put our heads together on it and what might be available for the virtual academy teachers. Like I said, and you know, there's, in the curriculum world, you know, not all assessments are equal, and STAR 360 has some pluses and minuses. We have to make sure that it's measuring what we want to measure.
Okay, does anyone have any other questions about the virtual learning? No, Alice? Okay. Then I guess we'll move on to the annual work plan. That's what, David, I sent you. I apologize for not sending it until a few minutes before our meeting, but I sent you the FY20 Curriculum Committee annual work plan that we had started last year. So that way we wouldn't truly be reinventing the wheel. Let me see, or let me share my screen.
I found it. Thank you.
Oh, you found it? Okay, then you can share your screen.
I would be glad to. Just 1 second.
Okay.
Okay.
Ta-da.
And I know that there was a conversation when we were coming up with the agenda for this evening's meeting of whether we would talk about the annual work plan or not, given that we have a vacancy in our curriculum coordinator position. And I wanted to let the group know, that I accept the responsibility. It's the superintendent's job to coordinate curriculum, whether there's a curriculum coordinator or not. So I'll be carrying that work forward until the position is filled. So please don't worry that it's an entire vacancy with no one at the wheel. I am working on a plan that I will present to the school board at our Thursday meeting to talk about how I want to fill that position. I don't have the plan ready to discuss this evening, but just to let you know that I am working on plans for filling that and doing it in an effective way that I'll be sharing with the committee, well, with the board rather. But that being said, I think it will be important for us to think about, now I have to get to the appropriate tab, of our work plan for the year, so that we can do things in a reasonable manner and make sure that we're, here we go, covering the bases, so to speak. I'm going to stop for a moment while I find the document again, and Victoria, let you ask any questions you have about it. Oh, there, I found it.
Oh.
You know, the big task ahead of us, as we discussed for most of our meeting this evening, is getting school started, working with 2 different platforms, essentially starting a virtual school in less than a month is a gigantic task, and I commend Lorraine and Jess Van Ornum for working on this. They essentially helped us create an entire new school in a little more than 2 weeks, which is a gigantic undertaking, but necessary to support our students. But I would like to, at the September curriculum committee meeting, once we have a director or a plan for a director in place, talk with the committee about the annual work plan, and talk about how we could include more voices in this plan, in this work. I think it would be important to have more teachers as part of this feedback loop, joining us. I'd like to have parents join us as regular contributors. I mean, I'd like to have students join us so that it can be a check and balances as we work on continual improvement in our instruction K-12, that people see our plans and get to have input on the plans and ask questions. And that's what I wanted to discuss this evening, but I wonder if there are questions or thoughts about the plan, about the work ahead of us.
Well, I would just think, I think a lot of our, I'll say from January on, from our curriculum meetings last year, no, this year, really, the ball got dropped on a lot of them. And that I'll say, you know, for the literacy one, where we actually discussed the STAR 360 program, I was the only person in attendance who wasn't presenting other than Andrea, who's at all our meetings. So I really think that we do. I agree. We need to get much more parental involvement. Student involvement would be great. Teacher involvement would be incredibly welcomed. But just the idea of, I think that we need to be looking at, I don't want to say soliciting issues, but kind of soliciting issues. A lot of the feedback I hear about this committee is it's just another rubber stamp that someone presents, we tell them a great job, and they move on. When we really need to be looking at things like improving our curriculum and where we can make changes. And I think in order to do that, we do need the teacher involvement, the student involvement, so that we can have a better informed discussion.
I agree. And getting a lot of feedback. I agree. And this is an area where Barry can improve and most schools can improve, because I mean, you know, I'll tell you the dirty secret of school administration. All of these plans that schools need to have, continuous improvement plans and the like, it's always crunch time. People are doing their best to put these plans forward. The plans always say, get community input, get parent input, and maybe we run it past somebody, or it goes to this committee with a few people in attendance and we say, good enough, get her done, let's move on. And that's not the key to you know, true improvement. When we look at our data for student achievement, you know, it's not enough for just us to look at it, but for parents to look at it and understand it, and give feedback, so we make sure that the plans that we're moving forward with are the right plans.
Along those same lines, I have a question, comment, that we're looking at a lot of plans. We're looking at a strategic plan and goals, a work plan, a when we get up in the morning plan, whatever. That, is there some way that if for example, if the strategic plan and goals is going to be our overriding bit of information, is there some way that we could integrate into that the work plan for curriculum, the equity audits, all of these other things that are facing us? Because two things: we're going to run out of people to serve on these various committees, and people are going to suffer from committee exhaustion, that if they see another committee coming at them, they're going to go the other way. So
I agree.
Should we be looking at what our number one priority is for planning, and then move from there, how we can integrate all these other pieces into it?
And I would recommend, I agree exactly with what you're saying. And I think if we put too much into any one plan, there won't be enough people to implement it. It won't be done well. And what's really successful is having a 5-year plan and map these things out, knowing that implementing curriculum takes time to do it well, to see all the training, to see it fully implemented, to check its progress, so that we're not trying to do everything in 1 year or only thinking 1 year at a time. I think, again, every school administration meeting that I've been in or every board meeting that I've been in, people say that we have too many things on our list and we can't do it all. So I think we have to be more strategic and planful.
I'm up for that because not only will it benefit the faculty and staff at the schools, but it'll give the community an opportunity to kind of see what they actually want to be involved in as well, and have strong people on each one of those subcommittees, if you want to call them that.
So those are my big picture thoughts about the annual work plan.
Anyone else have any input? Oh. Someone's open mic. So I think it would be great to sit down and actually, I'll email this document out to everyone so we can do it a little more collaboratively and plan to actually bring that all in September. If you could email out the current work plan, my mind is blanking now. Our mission, vision, so on. If someone could assist me in whatever I'm trying to come up with, that would be great. Alice, you just said it. The strategic goals, I can't think of it. You know what I mean? Please, someone, rescue me. There we go. Strategic plan, goals, and mission vision. If you could email that out, David, just because I don't think I have it, so that we can put that in. Now sorry, was there any old business that we didn't cover?
Before we move on,
yeah.
I would say, Victoria, is that I think those plans are lacking. I will look for this strategic plan, but I think part of the work that Sonia is in leading in the school board work is the mission and vision, which would help us with our strategic planning.
Well, but we did have because we're working on strategic planning for the BUUSD, but we did have all of that for all of the other schools previously. Each school had their own mission statement. Each school had all of those things. And that's what I think as a district, we're trying to combine them all.
Right. I will search for those.
It predates you most certainly.
And also though, right, yeah, we'll not have it for Thursday, but that's something good we should remember. Either you or I should remember to bring that up at the board meeting and see how those plans wrap into the mission and vision work that the school board is taking on for the whole district. Because they need to be aligned, and I'm sure they are pretty closely aligned.
Okay, perfect. So then essentially we're going to come back and revisit this in September. I'll email it out and everyone can add their ideas. Right? Sound good, Tim? Thumbs up? Perfect. Okay. So then old business. Anything to discuss? I have nothing. Any other business? All heads shaking no. Okay, future agenda items. David, I don't know what we want to throw on your plate in being superintendent curriculum director, but has anything been done with the equity audit?
No, we've been full speed ahead working on reopening school. I know that there are funds set aside in the federal grant to hire someone to help us with an equity audit, someone with the expertise to look at the different facets of the school's organization. But that's still important. So I hate to say back burner because it's such an important issue. But we're focusing 110% on reopening school right now.
Okay. So let's see. Does anyone have any? Oh, sorry, Alice.
Having been involved in my previous lives in equity audits and curriculum mapping, that can be a rather involved and lengthy undertaking. So I really appreciate the fact that folks are concentrating on what we need right now, which is the reopening of school, but also the fact that we should really look at who the folks are who are out there, because there are a lot of just add water type people who can, organizations that can suddenly get you an equity plan or a curriculum map or something like that, and really take the time to find the best possible assistance with that, because it involves not only the schools but the community, and something that's very close to my heart right at the moment, which is the United States Census, which has a lot of information about our community, and we need to really put some thought into that before we just dive into the deep end of the pool. So I'm all for it, but we need to proceed cautiously. I'm going back to my corner now.
Thank you, Alice. So I don't know, other than the work plan for future agenda items, do you have any suggestions, David? I feel like it would be premature to be having a discussion about how hybrid and virtual learning are going, given that our next meeting will be 3 weeks into it, if not less.
I think there could be a quick update, but yes, we should maybe look at that in September and October.
Okay. So then hybrid and virtual update for September and October. Okay. That feels like a very short meeting, but you know what? I think we deserve one occasionally. So did anyone else have any other requests for our September meeting? No? Fabulous. Is there anything you suggest, David, or do you just feel like an update and planning will be good enough?
I think that would be good enough.
Fabulous. Okay, then our next meeting date is September 22nd, so I guess 2 weeks after school starts. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn? Looking at you, Alice. Perfect. Alice gives me a first, and Tim is definitely giving me a second right there. So we're all in favor. So thank you, everyone. Have a fabulous night. Sorry for the technical difficulties in the beginning.
Thank you, everyone.